In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
All right, welcome. Hello, everyone. This is a brand new experience for all of us here at the Materialise podcast because we're doing a group show. So I should probably go to my script and actually do it properly. Hey, so it says, this is Materialise, the Launch Tabletop podcast, where we talk about turning game ideas into tangible objects. Today is the 27th of January, 2023, and this is episode 12. This week's topic is Reflections on CanCon 2023. Hello, I am Eris and I'm your host, and with me is Kate. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm stoked that we've got all of this happening, what with new software and so many people on the podcast.
We have, so for the people who would not have any idea what was going on behind the scenes, we've changed our software that we're doing the stream with. So Kate and I are figuring it out as we go, although we did have a little bit of practice beforehand. But yeah, who knows what's happened. So yeah, we've got 4 guests this week. So I'm just going to go through and say hi to everyone one at a time so we don't have too much crazy crosstalk happening. So first up, we've got Cheryl of How's It Games. Cheryl Howard of How's That Games. Hello, Cheryl. How are you?
Good, thanks. Looking forward to this. This is my first time doing anything like this.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful to have you here, and we'll talk in a bit about how we know each other. Mike, hello, Mike. Welcome, Mike Bantick.
Hi guys. Hi Eris. Hi Kate. It's not my first rodeo in this regard, but I'm very happy to be here and have a chat about CanCon. Thanks for inviting me.
Lovely.
No worries. Yeah, and now then we've also got Allan Chesher of Centennial Games. Hi, Chesh.
Hey mate, how you doing? It's great to be here and lovely to chat with everyone.
Wonderful, thank you. And lucky last is Sean. Now, this I should have asked you before, Sean. How do I pronounce your name? Is it Fenemore or Fenemore?
I say Fenemore. My parents pronounce it differently, but I find it
interesting.
A couple less typos this way. Yep.
So Sean Fenemore of State of Mind Games. Welcome, Sean.
Howdy all.
So yeah, as I said before, this is our very first time doing a panel type show with multiple guests at once. So yeah, thank you all for being willing to do this crazy experience with us and see what happens. And obviously, maybe not obviously, I'm saying obviously because it's obvious to me, but I've just come back from CanCon 2023 and know that the 4 of you have also come back from CanCon because we all caught up there. So for those who don't know, CanCon is a tabletop game convention in Canberra, Australia, and it's held every year in January. And its would you say the main focus is on kind of wargaming?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, miniature tournaments and stuff.
Yeah. But it does have a large board game section and games library where people can go and do stuff. One of the things that I find interesting about CanCon is that the actual main convention is free. Like anyone from the public can just walk in. It's only if you want to go into like the board game library or you want to enter a tournament that you might have to pay something, which I think is an interesting approach for getting people kind of like being welcoming to anyone to kind of check out what's happening. It's
good to see families wandering around with kids in a normal year.
Yeah. So first question really is, was this your first CanCon? And I'll start with Mike. Was this your first CanCon, Mike?
No, it wasn't my first CanCon. It's the first one for about 23 years, though. Last time I was there in Canberra at CanCon, I was winning the Warhammer 40,000 tournament that was there. So
that's awesome.
Way back in my history, but it's the first one.
You must have been like 6 years old then, Mike.
Yeah. I was a very good Warhammer player during primary school. No, but it was enjoyable to see, as you mentioned, the large board game section now that's developed as part of that convention. So happy to be there. Yeah.
Cheryl, was this your first? Oh, sorry. No, you go, Kate.
How long has CanCon been running?
I
At
don't
least
know.
Obviously,
23
more than
years.
23 years.
We all quickly Google. I think.
Yeah. I'll let Kate Google while
I'll
I
Google.
continue on.
You guys talk.
Yeah. So Cheryl, was this your first CanCon?
No, this is actually my third or fourth one. One of those things, but I'm old, so I forget things. So it's all good.
Lovely.
No,
And
I really enjoyed just the camaraderie of meeting new people in the games library. I had quite a few random people say, "Oh, you're looking for players? Can we play with you?" And I go,
yeah,
sure." And you don't
yeah,
get that.
no, it definitely is a good thing.
And I definitely
Chesh,
don't get a lot of that either.
Chesh, was this your first CanCon?
I think it's my second. I think I went about
Yep.
5 years
Yep. About
ago,
5 years ago.
maybe
Yep.
6 years ago, and then tried to get some booths and stuff, and then just unluckily got weddings and stuff that happened to always be on that weekend. And then COVID and all that. So it was the first time back.
Yeah. So were you there 2016, maybe?
I think it was 16 or 17.
Okay, because I have a vague feeling I may have played a game of yours or seen a game of yours played, but I've only been 2016, then 2020, and then this year is 2023. So
Yeah, I think
it may not have been you. I might be getting confused.
Well, the board game area was significantly smaller back then. It was probably
Yeah.
about a tenth of the size
Yeah.
of what it was this year, which is good to see.
Yeah, it certainly grew. And Sean, you're the Canberra local. How many times have you been to CanCon?
Not as many as I should since I live here. I used to just wander over and because a friend would come down for tournaments, so we'd go and meet him there. I remember taking our daughter just to wander around, and the games library was about 4 tables in a little tiny corner.
Wow.
But I think I've been every year since 2015, maybe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was the first one where I went and actually play tested one of our games and bought Robots and Rockets and had it signed by the designer.
So was that 2015? I thought it was 2016, but it must have been 2016 because January 2016 because the game only came out like late 2015. So yeah, but it's because it's January. It's so confusing. Like it's
2016.
It blurs together.
Who gets the year right in January?
Exactly. So I'm gonna say, Chesh, did you have a chance to play test any of your games this year?
I did. I've got a forging game called Forge of Eden, which is a tile sliding game, I guess, a little bit of a puzzle crafting game, which seems to be get a good response from everyone that plays it. So I played that about 3 or 4 times, I think.
Yeah.
I had my 2-year-old there with me, so that soaked up a little bit of my time.
How long have you been working on that one for?
I actually I made it just before the pandemic. I think the packs before the pandemic, I took it down for Collaboratory.
Yep.
Got a decent response, and then COVID happened, and kind of put it on the shelf for 3 years, or 2 years, however long it is. And then when the last packs came around, I thought, I should take something down. And my mate from work was going, and I've been talking about it for 2 years, so I took it down and got some plays in. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Good to bring it back out of the shelves.
I know that feeling too. I kind of COVID radically changed my I stopped doing a lot of games. I did some, but I slowed down massively and took huge breaks.
For sure.
So I totally get it. Sean, were you testing any games? And I know the answer to this because I actually played yours. Unfortunately, Chesher didn't get to play your one, so I can't speak from personal experience. But Sean, next time definitely. Well, I think we're actually in the same city. Technically, I think we live in. I'm in Sydney. Are you in Sydney?
I have moved. I was in Sydney for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And I just moved to Wagga Wagga, which is only 3 hours away from Canberra. So, closer to Melbourne. So.
Further away from me. There you go.
More space.
Yeah. And a cool name, Wagga Wagga. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
For that huge game designer shed you're putting up.
I'm trying.
So I was telling Kate and actually Alan from our Allan Chang from our podcast, our Long Tabletop, about a conversation that I had at CanCon between two other game designers talking about power tools, and it was Sean and Chesh who were doing the talk about power tools, and Alan, he likes to bring on power tools on the show. So it was interesting to me that there seems to be a bit of a thing with game designers who like to use power tools.
We have
I love them.
have to spend all those profits we make on something.
So does that mean Tim Allen designs games?
Must do. That's the obvious inference, isn't it? Yeah.
I think so.
So, Sean, were you testing anything at CanCon?
Yeah, I took quite, I think 4 games along. I played a couple. I spent more time sitting around gossiping than actually playing my games.
That's not a bad way to spend your time, though. And I certainly enjoyed chatting to you. So yeah. Mike,
after the pandemic, it was just catching up with people. I think that was.
Oh, exactly, and I think that's
people.
Yeah,
especially because I think you and me both missed PAX last year, PAX Australia. So there's probably that added to that of we hadn't really seen people. So yeah. Mike, were you testing anything?
I brought 3 games that I sort of focused on, because I imagine everybody on this call has got a million ideas up on shelves wherever, except Kate.
Not a game designer.
Yeah, I brought 3 games along that are quite at that sort of mature stage. What I really liked was the fact that people actually came up and said, "Can we play this?" Which was nice. Cool. So I was very happy, and to get that sort of feedback, and then out of this, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but out of this, I'm completely changing the theme of one of the games that.
Wow.
So because the mechanics are fine, but the feedback is basically the theme's just a bit too niche. So I'm making it a bit more gamer friendly, I guess, which
appealing
irks me. But
is that the dancing one?
Correct. Yeah. So,
See, those of you like, oh yeah, the dancing one, and I'm just I didn't play the dancing one, so I've got no backstory for this game.
So Dance Mob was the original one, and the feedback I got was it's too harsh a name for it, which is nice, make it a bit more friendly. So my wife's gone to work on that, and we've got some better names for the dance version. And then I've got props here. I shouldn't have props, but I'm changing it more to a warrior dance style game instead of the straight
kung fu that.
Not quite kung fu, but similar. Yeah, so sort of a more of a capoeira style dance game. So
cool.
It changes the
that's a nice segue into your fourth question, Eris, of what was the most valuable thing you took away from playtesting?
Well, I can expand on it later, get to your other guests first. But yes, I brought some games, and it was a great time. I'm exhausted afterwards after playtesting them all. So it was great.
And Cheryl, how did your playtesting go? I know you playtested too, yeah.
Yeah, I took 4 down, but I ended up only playtesting 2, simply because that's where the interest lay. So I let the other ones slide for a bit. It was Dice Dungeons of Doom, and I've called it Treasure Hunt, or Treasure Quest, but
Get Wrecked.
Get Wrecked, yes. Well,
hey, I think that was my best most valuable contribution to the weekend was saying Get Wrecked.
I've removed the shipwreck, so that's not going to apply.
So Kate, in this treasure game, there was shipwreck cards, and I said to Cheryl, "You should totally call this game Get Wrecked," and then people, it's just a funny title. But if she's taking the shipwrecks out, what's the point? Yeah, don't get wrecked.
Yeah, well, you can't get wrecked now.
No.
So I got some really good feedback from both of those games. So I think it was very productive in that sense, and I'm glad that I didn't even bother with the other ones.
Yeah, I only took one game this year because I only took the one game because of COVID. I've really just only been working on. I've just kind of been doing little bits of game design between other stuff and just trying to survive. And so I only had the one, but it was actually a little bit liberating just having the one, because I think sometimes when you do take multiple games, it can get a bit how do you fit it in? How do you find the right playtesters? Like, it kind of makes that question, more complicated. Is that something that a couple of you said, actually 3 of you had multiple games. Did you have multiple games there, Chesh, or just the one?
I made a couple of games in the first year of COVID. And I think when it ended, well, when we could go outside again, I kind of went to look at them, and some of them, I looked at the rules and I thought, I can't even remember how to play this now.
Yeah.
I was like, what was I thinking?
Not a
with
good
this
sign,
thing?
that.
Yeah, I even have a tabletop simulator build of it and of one of them, and I'm like, yeah, I probably built it and made it within like a few weeks and played it a few times, and then it sat there, and I went back to it. I was like, oh, I'll dig in and try and figure it out later. But just been focusing on this one forging game at the moment. And yeah,
make
and
it like a
just
game jam. Use all the bits. You got 3 weeks. Work it out.
Yeah, someone figure out my rules.
Well, we had Jonathan Gilmore on the show last week, and he mentioned that he doesn't write rules down for his prototypes, and I felt good because I never write rules down until my games are very late, kind of when I'm really satisfied that that's I'm committing to that, and I think one of his attitudes was basically like, it's almost like that, what you just said about the game jam thing. It's kind of like when you pull it off the shelf after 6 months and go, what was I thinking with these components? And then you may remember it wrong, or you might whatever, but it's still like I think the salient point that I took away from his thing was the attitude of, if I've forgotten it, then it's worth forgetting, basically.
Yeah, how important was that rule?
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah.
Giving yourself creative freedom to have a rethink.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I can't do that. I just can't do that.
Yeah, everyone's different.
I've got to have plans. I've got to write lists. I've got to do that sort of stuff.
Everybody
also a little bit of.
Everybody talks.
I also think there's a little bit of self kind of limiting factor that gets thrown on it. Like if you're working on 20 games and you don't write any of the rules down, then you kind of can't work on 20 games. You have to.
Yeah, I don't work on 20 games at a time.
I think that's how those 18X games come out. They just play out every game, and those 18X games come out that way. They just play out every box and think it must have been one game and just smushed it all together.
How many did John tell us that he was working on at one stage when he first went full-time game designer? I think he said he had 30 on the go.
Wow.
Maybe, but they're all different. Like, I think that's including expansions and stuff, and so it's a bit of a different. And I think he co-designs almost everything. He said he prefers to co-design. So I guess that also helps because you've got someone else whose memory and potentially written stuff you can rely on. So was there your bullet point? Yeah,
just the main salient points.
Yeah,
and make up the rules in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I probably do that sometimes. There are times when I do that. I also will just try and put information on, like if I've got a board, I'll have a section of like things to remember that I wouldn't put in an actual finished game, and on cards I might have more text than normal. Did you play test anyone else's games? And I'll start with Mike.
Yes, let me see. I always play one of Cheryl's games. I know I played Get Wrecked, or whatever she ends up calling it.
Treasure something, yep.
That was fun. Especially like your game, Chesh. The forging game is excellent, and it's just that right. For me personally, it's just that right level of complexity that I can get around my head without going full Euro, and I enjoyed that. I unfortunately spent most of my time gossiping with Sean rather than playing these games. And there were some other designers there that are at various stages of their career that were hopefully not too discouraged by me spending too much money on artwork and stuff. Because they were doing what they should be doing at that stage of their designer career, and that's rolling out some bits of cardboard in Hex. And we played a couple of those games as well, and that was good as well. So yes, is the answer.
Nice.
And I played your game too, Eris.
You did play my game. You're right. You were one of the early people on the Saturday you played it. Yeah. Nice. Cheryl, did you get a chance to play many other people's games?
I played Mike's and Sean's, and there were a couple of other games that I played, but like I said, I'm old, so my memory's gone because I didn't write.
Yeah, I mean that's why I was
stuff.
using the BG Stats app so I could remember what I played.
Yeah, I'm going to have to talk to you about that. So I really quite enjoyed the difference between. Well, I actually didn't play Mike's games. I actually just watched because I wasn't. I didn't get in quick enough. But it was just as fun to watch, particularly the invaded space and watching people and turning the boards upside down. Whose brilliant idea was that?
We'll talk about that in question 4 comes up about takeaways, I think, about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
And Sean's tile laying game. I've discovered that nature does not stand a chance against houses and mining.
So Sean has a game which I also played, which was about like you're trying to balance mining, residential building, and nature, like reserves and animal, like flora and fauna. And the scoring is interesting because basically one player is scoring mines, someone else is scoring residential, someone else is scoring nature, depending on the number of players. So you've all kind of got these different things, but it's a shared tableau of cards that you're overlaying, and so you can kind of block each other and mess each other up. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun. Frustrating, but fun.
So Sean, did you play anyone else's games? Welcome to the Greens.
I played Zeusy Go, your game.
Zeusy Go. It's not called Zeusy Go. I do not want to get sued by Game Right for like trying to steal 2 of their games. Zeus on the Go and Sushi Go. Holy moly. But maybe I should pitch it to them as that. That's amazing. Yeah.
You should, definitely. I didn't play Chesher's, but I have played it previously.
I think so.
Maybe at LFG. Did you ever take it up there?
Yeah, I took it to LFG.
Yep.
I think with the Dice Men, I think you might have.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
It's got that whole like pushing coins off those arcade games sort of feel to it. I played Cheryl's Not Get Wrecked Anymore.
The treasure one? Yep.
Yep. I didn't play, but I watched the explanation of the math game as well. Is that Dicey Dungeons or whatever it was?
Dice Dungeons of Doom. That's
it, sorry. I managed to stay at the back of the stage in Dance Wars. Yeah. And I'm trying to think.
I can relate to that, Sean. That's about where I stayed when I played it.
It's the safest spot, unless you want to win. I think that may have been all I played. I did watch quite a few others.
Yeah. I got to play a bunch. I should have probably had my list in front of me, so I'll go from my memory. So sorry if I forget anyone, but I played a couple of prototypes, or at least one, maybe 2 of Tegan Smith's. So Tegan we had on the show. Yeah. I also got to play a really cute dinosaur game and two variations of it by Craig Summerton. And like 5-minute rounds, and we played like 6 games in a row, and I was just like, let's keep going. Like it was genuinely like a really clever little 2-player system that he got.
It was interesting studying that one because I'd seen it on the Button Shy Discord, not knowing that it was an Australian. And then I got there and saw the art, and I was like, I've seen this before. I think I even proofread the rules or something. So.
Oh wow, yeah. It's just really beautiful art, like really cute dinosaur art, and it's just like a very basic game. Like as in, when I say basic, it's not complicated rules, but it's just 2-player. But he has 2 variations because he's still trying to, I guess, work out what rule set he wants to kind of go with as the main game, or if he wants to make them 2 different, because the rules were quite different as how it scores. So might make it 2 games. I also played. What else did I play? I played Game of Cheryl's. I did not play Mark. Sorry, I did not play Cheshire's. I played the mining game. What's it actually called, Sean? The mining game?
It's all mine.
It's all mine. That's right. Yes. And I also played. Let me check my list because I am now forgetting my things. So I also played the March of the Dinosaurs was the ones from Craig. Okay, so I played a couple of Josh Shenanigans or Josh. I don't know what label he uses for his brand, but Josh Lawrence. I played a couple of his games, and one was a dice throwing game, which is like a gladiator dice. It's called, I think, and so basically your dice represent gladiators. It's a very impressive. Like he's got a full on Colosseum built out of cardboard that you're throwing these giant dice into. Like it's like they're D12s, I think, maybe, or D8s. I think it's D12s. And yeah, I didn't love that game because it scared me. The dice were huge and bouncing everywhere and whatever. And I did poorly in it, so that must mean it's bad. But he had another game called Fishfall, which was, I think, almost the last game I played on the Sunday night.
Yeah.
And I think it's my favorite game of the weekend that was like a prototype. Like basically what he's done is he's taken a Connect 4 style mechanic of dropping tokens down on a grid, but they're fish, and you got to get them into different patterns, like puzzles, to kind of score different ways. They've all got their own powers and scoring abilities. Some fish have actions attached to them, some just score, but they score in different ways. And I cannot overstate how much I loved that game. It was so fun, and may have been a dose of like late night con kind of feel good vibes happening, but it was a 4-player game. Josh was watching. We all kind of were figuring out as we went, and I really loved it. I also got to play Carl Lang, who we've had on the show before. He had a deduction game called Detective that I got to play.
Yes, I think I played that one with you.
And did he? Yeah. And was his game also? Oh no, that's right, Martin. So Martin, who I met at a Sydney playtest event a couple of months ago. Martin also, I played a couple of his games. So I played Star Chart by him and Crystals by him. And the funny story for me is that after playing Star Chart, I said to him, "Oh, where did you go?" Because it's a prototype, but it was like a professionally printed prototype. And I was like, "Where did you get the game printed, like these cards printed?" Because I really liked them. And he was just like, "I got them printed at Launch Lab, like from your company you work for." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? These are like actually really lovely." And I was like, it was a genuine kind of like, I knew our product was good, but like it was just one of those things where I was just like, didn't know he had it printed. And I thought it might have been someone else, or he had it done anywhere. Like, there's heaps of options. And it was us, and it was a really funny moment. And he just laughed at me. So he also had a game called Crystals, which was a laser cut acrylic thing that he'd made, where you're pulling shards of crystal out of a bag, and there's placement rules on how you can grow your crystals on the board. Interesting concept. I didn't gravitate to it immediately. I found that the distribution was I was put off, and also I was tired and had a really bad headache, so that was not helping anything. But the idea and the visual presence was very interesting, so I'm very curious to see where he takes that. And I saw him playing that with other people over the weekend too. And I know he was demoing a couple of other games. I think he also had about 4 or 5 games there.
Exit Strategy, I think, was one, or Escape Exit, or something about exiting and escaping. I played that one. That was really very simple and very clever, but frustrating.
But was it frustrating in a good way?
In a good way, yeah. So
that's funny. All right, so before we go to our little ad in the middle, I'll just ask each of you to answer what's the most valuable thing you took away from playtesting this time. So we'll start with Mike.
Right, me. Okay, so the 2 games that I got really constructive feedback from were the aforementioned Dance Comp, which is going to be a new name and new theme, or maybe even 2 different themes when it comes to pitching to publishers again. That was really useful. I'd probably been stubbornly sticking to my guns in that respect to the way that gets played. I've also made it a lot more easier to, if people know the game, you're matching up, you're making a dance out of cards. with arrows that sort of flow through, and I've made that a bit more forgiving and a bit more a few more options in there. So that was really good. So that's already done. I've done that in a week. That's done.
Wow.
The second one, Invaded Space, which does attract people to the table, just with the artwork. I think Steve out of Brisbane did the artwork for me. But then once people are playing the game, it's very much like a retro video game, but turned on its head, where you are the aliens. I got a lot of good feedback from both public players, so it was really good to have public players turn up, but also folks such as the people on this panel and potential publishers as well came along. So I'm making some minor tweaks to that and make it a bit more of a bit more. It'll be a bit more of a, what do you call it? A tapestry? No, not a, what is it when you build a group of
Tableau?
Tableau sort of management as well. It's sort of a Tableau destroying game more so than a Tableau creation game. But I'm going to put some more elements of the Tableau into that game as well going forward. So, and as far as Paranoid Superheroes go, and I'm happy with it. It's set. It's done. So we played a couple of games of that, and that's pretty well balanced, and I'm happy with that. So they were my takeaways from the week end.
Wonderful. Chesh, did you have any takeaways from playtesting this time?
So all my playtesting was for Forge of Eden. Basically, I'm at the point where kind of like there's 7 kind of character abilities that you can play with, and some of those abilities are kind of starter, beginner kind of abilities, and then there's 2 of them that are more advanced. And each side of the character has a beginner and an advanced side. To kind of, so that like if I've already played like 5 times and I'm bringing new people in, there's a little bit of a penalty against me so that it evens it out, so that there's a bit of a challenge for experienced players, and the new players get a couple more points. And so because of that, there's certain pacing things that come up, and balancing across multiple player counts. So something could work for 4 players, like the orange character, and the red character could work for 4 players, but then you play a 2-player game, and then all of a sudden the red player is like a bit better. So just figuring out some of those pacing things. And the way the game works is you're forging resources, and it slowly you get more resources as you create more forging tools. And the forging tools are 1, 2, and 3 in length. So to go from like 2 forging tools, you might get 4 resources or 6 resources a turn, to the 3 forging tools, which then gives you like 10 to 15 resources a turn. And kind of ramping that up so that the game doesn't feel too slow kind of at the start, and then doesn't feel too quick at the end, where it just ends.
Yeah, get that pacing right.
And just kind of figuring that out. So I've come up with a couple of ideas, tweak a couple of the values here or there, and go tweak my prototype.
That's what we all do, right? So Sean, did you have any major takeaways from playtesting at this time?
Well, to be soppy, the major thing was I'd missed seeing people after 3 years of not seeing them. That was huge. Game wise, I really appreciated, like, Kim Reback was there from Good Games, and I asked if he could have a look at my games just to give me feedback, not as a pitch. And he kindly sat down and played 2 rounds of the animal game about feral animals impacting wild native animals. And he'd seen it originally as an 18 card, and I'd made changes based on that and pushed it up to 45. And just to get that feedback that, and I came home and wrote out, I don't know, a page and a bit of notes, and I'm going to let it stew for a while. That thematically it works. The message is there. Families could, discuss it with the kids. Yeah, it's bad that animal's died, but that's what happens. But my housekeeping in between rounds is very thematic, but is probably okay for gamers, but not for the market I'm sort of targeting. So I have a hard thing to work out how to fix that and try and still keep the variety and theme in there. But yeah, and I started making new cards today for for It's All Mine, just to add some additional scoring elements in there for other players. So it's not just a straight lay over the top. There's little icons for bonus points and in-game things that you can do if you make certain shapes, and maybe it's better to help your opponent at that point in time to get the points so they don't get them, kind of thing. So,
interesting.
bit of work.
I just before I move into Cheryl, I just remembered I also got to play a game that Shannon Kelly, who we've had on the podcast before, had brought along, which was a design that his brother had done, and he was playtesting and showing that. I think it's called Animal City, and that was an interesting, not a flip and write, I suppose you'd call it. Yeah, cards were flipped, and then you'd fill out on your score pad, like where you're going to build your stuff. Yeah, it was good. Cheryl, did you have any major valuable takeaways from playtesting this time?
Well, yes. I got a lot of really good feedback on the game that I invented just the week before as part of a challenge. And yeah, I had it done in less than 3 days. And the mechanics are fine. So the feedback I got, the gameplay is really good, but there are quite a few things that could be better. So a few things that I took away is making the board modular. So I've ended up making them little cards now that you can put together depending on how many players you have, so you can change the size of the board. The making the quest cards a little bit more forgiving, in that making them a little more generic, or being able to cope with the changeable board now. So they were things that I had to look at. So the last 2 days, that's what I've been doing. Feedback from Kim is always great. He actually is able to quite clearly pinpoint things that are working, things that are not working, things that are good but need streamlining. Also, he finds from a manufacturer's point of view, well, this is going to cost a lot to make, so how can you make it so it's cheaper to make? Because price point is a pretty important thing. So there were lots of different things that he was able to give me a lot of constructive information about what I can do for this particular design and for future designs, which is always a huge thing. And for him to give up 45 minutes or so of his time just to do that, I mean, it's gold. You can't get better than that. So that were the main things that I took away.
Wonderful. We're gonna have a small break where I play an ad, a pre-recorded video about Launch Lab, and then we'll come back and have some more questions. Launch Lab is our small batch print-on-demand service for tabletop games. Whether you want just 1 or 1,000, we have you covered. Select from our library of components to build your next game. We offer high-quality printing and components at a competitive price with fast production time, shipped to almost anywhere in the world. Go to launchtabletop.com to sign up for a free account and start prototyping now. Use the coupon code Materialise, that's MATERIALISE, at checkout to get 20% discount. Thank you, younger Eris, and I love saying that because I say the same joke every week and it makes me chuckle, and I don't care if anyone else hates it. So probably one of the big questions, I think, is bouncing a bit of what Sean said earlier about the soppy reason of like chatting to people and catching up with old friends and meeting new friends, and that as being a positive of the convention. I completely agree with Sean on that. That's probably like 70% of the reason why I go to an event like this is really the relationships and the friendships and new ones, old ones. Like that's definitely the bigger thing for me than just strictly trying to get my games, tested or whatever. How do you, I'm going to start with Cheryl. What do you find the role of conventions are for you as a designer? Like, have you been to any other conventions, or I think you said you went to PAX. You've been to PAX before.
Yep. I've been to that one. There's a couple of local ones down here in Melbourne, the Meeple Con and ShepperCon, which Carl runs. I've been to those, and it's I think it's just getting to play games with people who actually like playing games. I have 5 grandchildren who live in this house, and no one wants to play games with me. When they say we'd rather do our homework than play a game, I think that's seriously wrong. But being able to actually spend time with like-minded people and just to be able to talk shop with people that really care and want to listen rather than say, can I go and do my homework now, is really quite nice. And I think that's the main takeaway I get from going to conferences.
It's fulfilling to be around your tribe.
Yes, it is. And I mean, I've had a couple of entries into the collaboratory at PAX. I think I've had 3 different ones accepted there now, and just being able to have that opportunity to test in an environment where you're just playing with random people who have absolutely no idea who you are from Adam or Eve, and you know, getting to do what it is as designers you'd like to do it's really good from that perspective. You can't really beat it. I'd like to be able to go overseas now that COVID's finished. Maybe that might happen.
Yeah, we do. I know that I feel sometimes isolated in Australia because a lot of the cons happen in North America or Europe. But that's okay. We're doing. I think in some ways we're actually really lucky. We do have a bunch of conventions. And yes, they may not be huge, and certainly not to the level of some of those overseas ones. But the local ones are good, and sometimes you get to meet people and spend more time with them maybe than it be so hectic. Mike, how's your experience been with conventions and have you been to many before and that kind of thing? You're on mute or something?
Yeah, mute.
No audio's coming through. Still not coming through, so we might have to, maybe I'll jump to somebody else. No, still not coming through. I'm gonna jump and ask Chesh the question, and that you might maybe you can try something out with that. So Chesh, what about you? What are the role of conventions for you, and have you been to many before and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I basically consider PAX like my yearly pilgrimage. I think I had a booth there. The first time I went to PAX, I had a booth. For
that's going big.
Which was just insane, really. It's just having a booth is just a complete different experience to going as a fan. And I did a booth for 3 years, and then I went as a fan and discovered like a whole other hall that was there. I was like, oh, what? Where has this always been here? And also that there was a green room for people that have the booth that you could go get tea and coffee at.
I don't think I've worked at booths at PAX and I didn't know that. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a green room with free tea and coffee.
You have to know people though.
I'm like, and through that I've talked to Johnny who runs all the who runs PAX, well, the tabletop part of it and the booth part of it, and I've had really long conversations with him about kind of how much a booth costs for a Kickstarter game that is only selling one game, and how difficult it is to be profitable or even just cover the costs. Like I've always had a great experience, but it's like quite expensive to run a booth. So and I think some of those conversations have inspired kind of the PAX Rising part of the tabletop section, where it's a cheaper entry point, like $1,000 or whatever it is, versus the $5,000 for a booth. especially if you only have one game. And I always look at like comparing like those bigger conventions like PAX, and like we went over to PAX South for the Indie Showcase with Kingmaker. And like even if there's like 100,000 people there, at the end of the day, you have a 3x3 meter booth, or you have a table with 2 games set up, and even if you play games back to back, you're really only getting to a few hundred people. And so whether or not that's at a convention that has 50,000 people or a convention that has 500 people, like you kind of got to look at like how many people you can realistically get to, and what kind of, like what are you trying to get out of that convention. So with something like CanCon, it's great catching up with everyone. I probably was the one gossiping with Sean most of the time. A couple of plays of my game, and just getting out and meeting people, and that's basically what I do when I go to cons, and go spend some money, really.
Fair enough. Sean, what about you? What's your why do you go to cons, or what's your experience been with them?
Normally I go to playtest. Been to PAX Collab most times. Last year I didn't go because COVID was too risky. But yeah, just normally playtesting and getting feedback from random people that you never see, and you probably never see again. It's not always the target market for every game, but some of them are just so excited to be in at the start of a game. And yeah, I mean, you do get the people that will rip it to shreds because they've got nothing better in their life. But you do get the ones that take it seriously, and even if their suggestions are not what you want, because it'll take the game in a completely different direction or whatever, they're still trying, and that's huge. And just meeting up with people, gossiping,
and I think
brainstorming, chucking out weird stuff, seeing where things end up.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely like a huge benefit of meeting in person and playing games together, and even like, I know Chesh, I really only talked to you for the first time properly when we happened to be at the same fast food restaurant together, and and a group of us were just chatting, and I hadn't really ever spoken to you properly before, I don't think, until that time, and it was just that kind of accidental sort of connection that I think is one of the benefits of going to these kind of events. Do you?
Dinner time is always a great catch-up time.
Yes. Maybe we need to reframe how we do conventions and just organize a series of meals together, and don't actually worry about it's just actually a foodie convention, not a game convention.
You're in those
yum chow holiday.
You're in those lines long enough to have a good chat.
True. Mike, you're still coming out, still silent, unfortunately. I don't know why it's not working. Yeah. Nope, can't hear a thing.
Nope.
Sorry, Mike. Maybe just try. Maybe
man.
No, not by us. By the who. Okay, let's not go into any conspiracy theories. It's not this. This is not that type of podcast. Maybe Mike, if you just he's doing that. Cool. We'll see what comes back. So do you have any? So I guess I'll go with Chesh. I'll go with you first. Why not? Do you have any tips for designers who haven't playtested at a convention before but are thinking about it or want to do it? So what would you advise people?
I'd say with conventions are kind of tricky. It's part playtesting, it's part marketing. You're out in the public. If you kind of have a brand image already, like that will be affected by the game that you bring along, I guess. I think that like you should know with your game, that particular game, like what you're trying to get out of it. Like Forge of Eden is fairly well developed, I would say. There's a couple of balancing things. It looks pretty good on a table. like I overproduce on my prototypes. Like it's not scrap bits of paper. I've got, some people use AI art, which is controversial at the moment, but like I have a bunch of stock footage, game art assets, humble bundle things that I've bought that I could just chuck it in and kind of get like the vibe of how I want it to look as like as as finished and professional as I could get it to look without spending thousands and thousands of dollars paying for real art or so just trying to like make it presentable. But and also like knowing that like that convention there's a sunk cost in going to it, and that you want to get kind of the best kind of feedback as you can. I would say something like CanCon, like bring multiple games. The way that I would work is like I'd bring a game along, and then in the first half of the first day, someone would give me feedback, and then I'd want to go and work on it. So like if you could work on it at the convention, and if you've got help, someone else could be playtesting, you could be swapping cards out, and if you could do that rapid iteration there at the convention, then that's great. But sometimes it's like I need to go make some pieces, or I need to go to a print shop and print out a bunch of stuff.
We need a designer room.
Write all those notes down. Write all those notes down, and then bring out game 2 or game B, and then do that, and then go, cool, there's a bunch of stuff I need to do, and then game C, and then get all that feedback, and then take them all home, and then it probably takes you a while, and then by the time you've got it all done, the next convention's ready. So
we need a design room like cosplayers have that repair room where they can go and do repairs. We just go off, there's like cubes and dice and printers.
And instead of glue guns, we've got a computer and a printer.
That's
some
not
cutting
even a
machines
bad
like a
idea.
Cricut.
Mobile
printers.
launch lab.
Mobile launch lab. Kate, there
so.
we go. Imagine that. Now my brain's thinking. Kate's thinking, how do we do it? So, Mike, is your microphone working now?
I don't know. Is it working?
Yes, it is working. So, Mike, do you have any tips for people who are wanting to play test at conventions, like a game designer who's wanting to go along for the first time?
How many questions behind am I? Well, look, I think the challenge with being a game designer is you also have to be a friendly person as well. So being approachable, and also the ability to kind of take the criticism, because when you're at particularly something like PAX or even at the library at CanCon, you're going to get a variety of people that are going to be attracted rightly or wrongly. And I think somebody mentioned it before, that sometimes you present a game to somebody and it might be an hour-long game, but you can already tell, you've got to read your audience, you can already tell that it's not their game, right? It's just not for them, and they've made a terrible mistake and they're playing with their phone or they're doing something like that. So being able to have a presentation of your game, at least, that you can cut short and move on perhaps, and or even just kindly say to people, hey, look, why don't we just make the next round the last round? I've got enough feedback. Have a think about feedback, and then we'll go into scoring or something from there. So being flexible, but being able to be a people person at the same time and read the room, which is the only piece of fatherly advice I've ever given my daughter, is be able to read the room, right? Know your audience is a big part of, I think, the playtest process. So that's probably my biggest tip. And also, don't overspend on production. Don't do what Chesher's done. Do what Cheryl and Sean's done as far as preparation of preparing a prototype.
So
always overspend on production.
Yes.
If I can ask a question, speaking to all of you as game designers, because I am not, how often do you turn up to a playtesting opportunity, whether it's, a casual little whatever at the library that someone went, hey, let's get a room, or a more official convention scenario? How often do you turn up with your games and you're like, this is the bit that I want to test, and that's the only thing I'm going to test, and I'm getting feedback on that, and you're like, right, here we go, boom, and you do that, and it's like, we're finished. Got my feedback.
I'll just quickly answer. What I sometimes do is have a core game, and then I've got other bits that I want to test that might add to that game. And so if it depends on the people again, right? Read the room. But if they're new people, I'll just do the core, and that's it, and probably play test the whole thing. But if it's a group that are either familiar with the game already, you just kind of add some componentry in, or add some rules, or hey, I've tweaked this bit, so let's have a real focus on that, and that's about the extent of it for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. You need to really be able to assess when you've got to stop, and you have to be comfortable with saying, "Okay, we're done now." So,
yeah.
And let
comment?
them not feel bad because they haven't finished the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I kind of cheat. I don't do games much over 20 minutes usually.
Yeah.
My attention span will go before the other players. It is good if you've got a long game to set it up so that you can play the bit you want. But if that's in the middle and you've got brand new players that don't understand the game, you're not going to get valid feedback. So that's a conundrum that I don't know how the people that design longer games get over.
Exactly what Kate or said, and I have to confess that while Mike and Chesh were talking, I got sidetracked because we had a comment appear, and with our new system that we're using, I did not know how to reply to the comments, so there was an issue there. The thing that I've seen people do and heard people do is they will do what Kate said. They'll kind of preset a game, to a certain stage and go, okay, we're 3/4 through. This is turn 6. We're going to just play turn 6 and 7 and see how it goes. I'm similar to Sean. Nearly all of my games are shorter, and so I haven't yet done that. And even the longer games that I've played, I've been working on, I tend to try and say, hey, can we try and play through pretty much a whole game? That's something I want to tackle, but it's an area that I'd say I'm weak in, is that kind of just trying to hone in on a specific thing and kind of go. Like, I was really impressed. Carl showed a game that he's developing. I think it might have been one that's being designed by Joel Kennedy, if I've got my memory correct, or Tom Cox, one of the two. And I think Carl presented the game. He's like, look, I do not know how this game is going to score, so we have no scoring for the game. It's just, we're testing some core mechanics out right now. And that was sort of like where he started, and he wasn't trying to finish the whole game and play it all through, and we just did a few rounds and he got information. And so, yeah, it's totally a doable thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, once I realised that getting my medium to heavy Euro game out was going to be a pointless exercise at CanCon this year, I just left it in the box and just focused on the two I knew were going to be 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes max, that and I could test higher player counts because I can get 2-player testing done, not a problem. And a lot of that is done with my 10-year-old grandson. So he's a really good play tester, and being able to then just enjoy the experience and have fun, and be prepared to actually say, well, yeah, that's a good rule, let's play with that now.
Yeah.
Be able to change midstream and not be too precious about everything is something that it took me a while to get used to.
Yeah.
But being a grandparent and a teacher for a very long time, you learn not to be precious about a lot of things.
Yeah, going back to what Mike said earlier about don't overproduce the value production copy or whatever. But normally I agree. Cheap and ugly. The uglier it is and the quicker it is, the more likely you are to trash it when it doesn't work, rather than find ways why you have to keep it. But for a convention, if it doesn't look good, people won't stop.
Yeah.
You get some people, but you get less. I had one person say about my animal game that they liked it when they looked at it. They didn't think they would because it looked, tired and worn out, which it was. But once they actually played it and they could see how it worked, then they got into it. At dev meetups and whatever, so I go to a local Canberra group, digital designers and stuff. They understand the concept of but ugly.
No, you're right. I've had people. Invaded Space went really well. Went off at PAX as well, and it's mainly because it's got that. I had the flip up poster
Banner.
as well.
Yeah,
People play it and they go, I really like it. Where do I buy it? And I go, well, whoa, Tiger. But that's you're right. When it's at the Great Unwashed are coming to play, then yeah, definitely, I guess.
That's also like, sorry, that's also with an event like CanCon and to a certain extent PAX. Nearly all the people there they're not there to test games. Like they're there to play games or see what games are like published games are on offer. And so to a certain extent, Sean, like you're totally on the money. Like having a more finished looking prototype or a more produced looking prototype, even if it is stock art. Like I'm similar to Chesher, I use stock art. I'll grab it and
this sort of thing, this level of production is cheap and easy to get printed at Officeworks, and it looks good enough for people to be interested.
Cheryl, or Launch Lab.
Or Launch Lab. Well, I didn't know about them until this
but it's fun. But even though I work for Launch Tabletop and all that kind of stuff, and I obviously believe in what we do, and I'm absolutely sending stuff to them, sometimes you got to go local. Like just if you want it for the weekend or the next day or whatever, then absolutely go to your printer. I have a printer in Brisbane who's a person. So I'm professionally, I'm a graphic designer. That's my background, and one of my old bosses runs a print shop, and he will turn around prints for me really quickly. So I often will send him stuff. Well, I say often, every few months when for me, which is often because I'm slow at game design. I'll send him some stuff and he'll print it and post it back to me, and I've got it within 3 to 5 days, which for me is pretty quick. But if I'm really desperate, I absolutely just use my parents' laser printer. Like they've got a color laser here. Oh no, it's not a laser. It's a bubble jet. What am I talking about? I'm on another planet. It's a bubble jet. Or Officeworks. Or any kind of local printer that's available. Yeah,
sometimes you just have to go and get things like fish tank pebbles because you can't find counters because nobody has them.
I highly recommend that. I stocked up on, so when I started game design, I stocked up on all that stuff by going to $2 shops and discount places, and the little crystals that were like, at the time they were in some games, I can't remember which ones, but people were going crazy for these crystals in board games. And then I found the exact same crystals for like $2 for like a pack of 100 in like a fish tank, like as a fish tank supply thing. So yeah, aquarium. Yeah. It's such a there's definitely, if you're looking for little components to try any of those places. Yeah, it's really good. So we've hit an hour, so we might do some wrapping up because we don't want to go on too long. So thank you everyone for being here. I will do a longer thank you in a moment.
I have one final question.
Oh, yep, fire away.
Water. What's everybody got coming up? Is anybody kickstarting stuff this year? Are we looking out for launches of things so that we can...
Me, I don't want to do Kickstarter. I just want to find a publisher. So me, it's just pitch. And that's one of the harder things being in Australia. So because the vast majority of publishers are overseas. So it's just that slog. That's me. But I'm kind of hoping to get any of those 3 games that I've really concentrated on in the last couple of years to a publisher.
Cool.
I think. Sorry, on that. We had one publisher at CanCon, so Garth, who Carl works for, who were taking pictures. I know Sean and I both pitched to them. Did you pitch to them as well, Mike? Is that right?
No, I didn't.
I didn't get an opportunity.
Carl came and played, but no, I didn't get a chance to pitch.
Yeah, so that was. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was my first in-person pitch for probably like 3 or 4 years that I've done, and it was definitely a thing where I walked away. Actually, before I was talking to Sean, who he had his meeting before mine, and Sean was just like, "Oh yeah, I had a spare copy of my game that I gave them, so that they could take it away and try it out if they wanted to." And I'm in my thing, I'm like, I completely forgot to bring a duplicate copy of my game. Like I only had the one copy, so I didn't give it to them. So I was just like, I need to remember for the next time if I'm going to pitch to publishers, have spare copy of the game. Like
it was funny because I played.
Sorry.
Yeah, I play tested that game on the Saturday. It's All Mine, and I got a really big score, massively one-sided.
Okay.
And so I was paranoid because I'd remade the cards, and I went home, and I got the old set out, and I went through and matched them up and made sure I had both sides the same and all that sort of stuff. And when we were playing, there was one of the old cards in the deck, and I went, oh, must have been a mistake, and took it out. And then, of course, we were 1 card short, so we had to pull it back in and play with it. And then, yeah, I'd mixed all the cards up. So,
oh well, at least you had something on offer. So it was a lesson for me to remember that when I'm pitching again in person, have a couple of copies ready, because you never know if they're going to say, do they want to look at it. So yeah,
I make a print and play version, so it's something they can take to Officeworks and just print out and paste on cardboard or whatever to make the bits. And I find having that available and say, look, give me your email and I'll send you the files, also makes it a bit easier.
So who else has got plans coming up?
Yeah,
plans.
I've got
seeing as I overproduce things, it makes it quite difficult to give a copy of your game to a publisher.
Yeah.
And actually, my forging game, I've given that copy to Kim with Good Games, and I'm actually like halfway through making a new version. So I'm like, I have a whole bunch of 3D printed tiles.
Oh wow!
That need work. Yeah, so that's one thing that happens is when you give your game away in it, you have like some costly and expensive pieces to make, then you all of a sudden don't have a copy of your game.
Yes.
But the one thing I do like about it is like the design part of it is one aspect, and the crafting, building, construction part is another bit. So what I've just moved house, so I now have a bunch of space, and I plan on building like a studio where I can, set up my gaming bits and chemicals and resins and stuff away from the 2-year-old. That's nice and safe. So that's kind of what I've been doing, the last year, is just setting up my workshop and stuff. So
yeah.
Cheryl, how about you?
I've got
what have you got coming up?
two games in the works that I think will probably get manufactured this year. So that's the treasure. This one that
not get wrecked.
Not get wrecked. Yes, I'll have to work out a new game for it, and the Dice Dungeons of Doom. The manufacturer looked at that and he got a quote, and he said, "Oh, it's too expensive." When they actually played the game, they went, "We really want to publish this. We'll work it out." So they're actually doing all the research and homework for me. So that's great. So they're really keen to do it. So I'm hoping that both of these will get manufactured at the end by the end of the year. So
awesome.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck with that.
And lucky last, Sean, what's coming up for you?
Like Mike, I don't want to do a Kickstarter, not a big production one. I've done little Make 100s. If you want to lose lots of money in time, do that. But it gets your stuff out there. Really, just potter away. My animal game, my mining game are environmental and educational, so there's no market in the gamers for that. But I just keep plugging away at it. And Global Game Jam is on the first weekend in Feb, so I'm thinking of looking at that and maybe seeing what I can chuck together in 48 hours.
Cool.
If anyone's looking for a team.
Yeah, I've done jams, but not for so long. It's I think I did it 15 and 16, maybe I did too. But yeah.
Whereabouts is it?
The Global Game Jam. If you just search Global Game Jam 2023, there's some sites. Right? There's some sites registered in each city, but since the pandemic, they've started doing it online, and they've continued, so you can register online and be an online person. You don't get that whole the theme is released in each time zone and you're not allowed to talk about it and give people a head start until, so like Australia can't tweet or blog about their stuff until 23 hours after they've started, so that no one gets a head start. But these days I think they just do it differently. Oh yeah, it's a whole week now, you pick your days. But Canberra has a location. Game Plus is running it in Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, maybe Adelaide. And you can join up, but just look for whatever sites off the Global Game Jam website.
Yeah, it's mostly video game focused, but there is certainly a contingent of people doing tabletop games who go along, and yeah, it's
no pressure. But I did read a story from a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, where a team, I think it was in the US, designed a game, play tested it, launched it on Kickstarter, and funded by the end of the Global Game Jam.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Or they had a crazy low funding goal.
Bit of both.
18 cards, right? 18 cards.
Yeah, they were all professionals. They had like professional designer and artist and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, wow.
So I just looked on the website. There are Global Game Jam sites in Australia, in Brisbane, Perth, and Melbourne.
Oh, no Sydney. Wow.
No Sydney.
No Canberra, no Sydney. Interesting.
Sydney is a bit of a desert when it comes to game design.
So moving here is maybe Although this week I'm going to this Tuesday I'll be going to. There's a meetup that Chris Lee organises, which is called I think Tabletop Tuesday. Which I don't know how to find that on Facebook, but there is a Facebook page or group for it.
I think that's held at Game Plus office in Sydney.
Yeah, so I'll be going along
to.
I plan on going to that this Tuesday, and that'll be my second one. And then there's
You'll be able to check with them as well about if they're running Global Game Jam.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm up for it this year. I just got a lot going on, but it's certainly a good if you're interested in pushing your skills. It's certainly a good experience. The other playtesting event that I know of is the one in Canberra that Sean I think may have mentioned before. Is it LFG Canberra?
Yep.
So
Charles is really good, giving us free space to play test down there.
So Tegan Smith and Jen, who I can't remember the last name of, Jen. Yeah, you're right, Jen. They co-run it, and I think that's the third weekend of every month, roughly, something like that. Yeah, something like that. So I'm planning on trying to go to that one as well in February. I think is when the next event's going to be. We'll see if I actually make it to all these things. It's always good to have plans, though. And yeah, so okay, we've now gone on for even longer, so we're gonna wrap up because otherwise we'll be here for 3 hours. So thank you each for being here. It's been very good talking to you and hearing your stories. I definitely we have a new feature in this software that the old software didn't have, which is these React sound effects and stuff. So it's a new toy. So I will definitely be reaching out to each of you to have you on individually or in a pair in the future to go over some different topics, maybe in a bit more depth and hear more of your stories, and also maybe unpack some of the stuff that we've brought up today. So thank you very much for being here. Now, we do have a few little links for people who may want to follow along with any of your journeys. So for Cheryl, if you... Kate and I are both pressing the buttons at the same time. So if you, Cheryl, that's Cheryl's email address. If you wish, which is, I'll just read it out, is CherylHoward1958@gmail.com. If you put Howzat, HOWZAT games in the subject with her, and she's showing her shirt, then she'll know that it's about game stuff, and you can talk to her about her games and game design in general. One thing I didn't mention about at the start, because I kind of just was racing and not sure what I was doing, is Cheryl is also a game design lecturer at a university in Melbourne, and so that's really cool. And Sean also is a lecturer. Yes, no, was a lecturer.
Yeah, I am for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, and Sean has, that's Sean's Discord, which is that, and then Sean also has an email address, which is this one. And so stateofmindgames@gmail.com. If you want to catch up with what Chesh is up to, then look up Kingdom of Air, which is AER, on Facebook. And if you want to follow along or reach out with Mike, then mike.bantick@gmail.com.
Yeah, the Paranoid Superheroes on Facebook as well. I forgot about that. But
no worries. The Paranoid Superheroes. Yeah, cool. And so I think that's basically everything. I'll just now go to my script and we will go to the end of the show. So thank you again to everyone who's joined us, and thank you for everyone who joined in the chat and gave us some comments. I was just trying to go to it and then I went. So thank you, Cutlass. You were our main commenter today. If you'd like to propose topics or ask questions for a future show, or to chat more about game development and anything else related to bringing game ideas to life, then you can join us on our Discord server, which is ltt.ltd/s/discord. You can also follow us on YouTube and Facebook. And if you do follow on YouTube, then we would really appreciate it if you could like our videos and subscribe to our channel, because it really will help us make more of these and try and get more people on. Materialise is produced by Launch Tabletop. If you visit launchtabletop.com to find out more about Launch Lab, which is our print-on-demand tabletop game platform, you can sign up for a free account and use the code Materialise for 20% off your next order, not including shipping. And yeah, the system is, I could kind of touch on it in the pre-recorded ad, but you can put together your ideas and you don't have to pay anything until only if you make an order. So it's certainly interesting for me just to kind of trial kind of like component mixes and see, what I think might work and how much things will cost, or at least a ballpark. So it's pretty handy. And I am Eris, and I've been your host. And thank you, Kate, for being with me as the co-host today. It's been wonderful. Thank you again, Cheryl, Sean, Chesh, and Mike. And thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Cool. Thank you. See you all.
Yeah.
Hey, we're still on the stream because the software doesn't automatically end. So fun ending. See you later.
See ya. Thank you.